Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. It appears Michael Matheson gave an interview, and this interview on BBC Scotland kind of blows any kind of credence the man may have had over his story. It highlights his lies, it highlights his incompetence, and it highlights the fact that he should not be a Minister of State. He is not a fit person to maintain and hold such a position, and he needs to consider his position and probably resign with immediate effect. And if he had any honour and decency, he would do so. But we saw that the very fact he was throwing his children under a bus to save his own job, that he has no honour and decency whatsoever. But we'll take a look at this story, see why he is basically shooting himself in the foot, to put it bluntly, pointing out his own errors in his story, because he's quite incapable of telling any kind of semblance of truth. The lies change daily. Here goes. So here we have the story. It's the interview he gave where he said one thing, then contradicts himself, and then contradicts himself again, because the lies keep tumbling out of that gaping hole at the front of his head that he calls a mouth, but which we know is just a mouthpiece for lies. The damning Michael Matheson interview, which highlights the glaring hole in his story. Many holes in his story, I think. He's a man who, over the years, has had many holes. The Health Secretary gave an interview to BBC Scotland where he said that no one else had used his parliamentary iPad. And we know that this is a lie, because 4 days after he said his kids told him that they had used it to watch Scottish football games. So he knew in advance that he was saying these words and that they would be lies. The man is a liar and a fraudster, and yet he's still in his position, a position he's got no business in being in. Michael Matheson is under growing pressure to resign after an interview he conducted on Monday shed new doubt on his iPad claims. The Health Secretary almost broke down in tears, holding an onion, during a personal statement at Holyrood, where he blamed his children for racking up the £11,000 bill while on holiday in Morocco. What kind of father blames his children? Be a man, Michael. Stand up. Take the blame. Take the responsibility. Don't pass it on to others, you weak-willed wanker. However, his timeline of events has been called into question by critics, as they seem to indicate that he lied to journalists. Say it ain't so. Say he's not a member of the SNP who lies a lot. They all do. They all do. Humza Yousaf has also been dragged into the row as well, with his integrity and reputation on the line. And that's very strange, because I wasn't aware he had either integrity or a reputation. Well, I suppose he does have a reputation, but it's not a good one, is it? On Monday, November the 13th, Mr. Matheson was interviewed by BBC Scotland about his iPad data. And he was asked if anyone else had used his equipment and contributed to running up the £11,000 bill, to which he replied no, because of course this is a government-issued device. It is under his control. It contains delicate, confidential information, and so of course nobody should be using that but him. And indeed, not only that, but it should never have been taken out of the country, and especially not to one that is deemed to be unsafe by the FCO. It is a security issue, if nothing else. Other journalists had asked if there'd been any personal use of the device, but he responded with no again. But on Thursday, November the 16th, he admitted that he found out on Thursday the previous week that his sons had used data from the iPad to watch Scottish football matches on December the 28th and January the 2nd. So he knew when he was lying that he was lying. That makes him a liar, a thief, fraudulent. It makes his claims for that money, which he's had and been paid for, absolutely a crime. Anyway, it means he's potentially misled the media by sticking to his old story of an outdated SIM card being the source of the eye-watering bill, and demands have been made for him to be scrutinised at Parliament again, and also to quit his role. Not only quit his role, hand his iPad over. If he is now saying that it was just football, then he has nothing to fear. And if he has nothing to fear, then he has nothing to hide. And so let us have that iPad scrutinised fully to see exactly what he's been looking at. After all, in his words, the truth is now out. And if he is unwilling now, even now, to hand over the iPad for scrutiny, then you know there is only one reason. And that is that what is on that iPad, that history, that browsing history, must be so damning and damaging that he dare not reveal it. And at that point, we have to question what that history and browsing history is. And I'm afraid that our minds go straight to one thing, the one thing that even he cannot allow to come out. And we are talking the potential, not the actual, but the potential that what he was looking at is so disgustingly degenerate that even the SNP won't be able to save him. And for that, we go straight to the gutter, don't we? But that's where he's taking it. He's taking this. He's opening that door. He's opening the door for us to walk through straight to where we think he's going. And that's simply because he won't hand it over to be scrutinised. That itself tells a lot. In the BBC Scotland interview, the journalist asked if other people were using the iPad, using your equipment. Is that why the bill was so large? The Health Secretary flatly denied it and added the reason for that is because it's a SIM card that was in it which should have been replaced. That's not it at all, is it, Michael? That's not it. It's the very, very, perhaps, possibly, the very degenerate sites that you've been looking at, which may have or may not have, and we do not know. And until you hand that over to complete another inspection, we will never know. But we all suspect it may be websites with, let's just say, very young people. Probably, maybe, potentially, allegedly. He said, I've accepted it's my fault. I failed to take the action that the Parliament stated I should have taken into the matter, and as a consequence, it was tied into an old contract, which allowed it to rack up this bill in a way I wasn't aware of, which the Parliament fully investigated back in January. But you were aware of it, Michael. You were aware of it when you put your bill in, when you put your expenses in. You were aware of it and did nothing. And therefore, at that moment, it was fraud. And whether you pay it back or not does not negate the fact that you committed a fraud. You are a thief and a liar. And you should not be a minister. Or indeed an MSP. You should resign both from the government but also as an MSP. Force that by-election. Give the people the option to have someone representing them that is not a thief and a liar. I think the people need a better choice. Mr. Yousaf also told journalists on Wednesday that the issue was closed. But just because he says it's closed, of course, doesn't mean it's closed at all. And indeed, this will not be closed. It will continue until Michael Matheson resigns. He said it was a faulty SIM card, which we know it wasn't, that was to blame on the bill, which we know it wasn't. And Mr. Matheson told the First Minister the real reason on Tuesday, meaning the SNP also misled the media. He knew on Tuesday, despite giving the information out that it was the SIM card on the Wednesday. And so Humza Yousaf is another liar. And as he's a liar after the fact that Michael Matheson stole, he's also guilty. He is guilty after the fact and is therefore also could be tried as a thief, because being guilty after the fact means you're guilty of the initial crime. That is the way the law works. And so we can quite honestly say that Humza Yousaf is also a thief. He was, after all, guilty after the fact. He knew that this had gone on and he did nothing. He said nothing. He carried on with the lie. Therefore, he is also guilty in the fraud committed by Michael Matheson. That makes Humza Yousaf a liar and a thief as well. That pair of them need to resign their positions and indeed their seats, because we don't want liars and thieves sitting representing the people. That is not what the people want. The people want honest people, not people who lie, people who tell the truth, people with integrity, people with honesty, not lying thieves. Anyway, the Health Secretary has referred himself to the Holyrood authorities for investigation and also offered an unreserved apology to MSPs, but this is not enough to get rid of the scandal, claimed Scottish Tory leader Douglas Ross. Quite right too. This is one where I actually agree with Douglas Ross. He said the fact is the Health Secretary has lied and covered up this scandal and the First Minister has aided and abetted him. The country can see Michael Matheson's position is untenable, and if Humza Yousaf refuses to sack him, he is condoning ministers lying to the public, misleading Parliament and stealing from the state. The First Minister must agree to a debate on this week so that all issues can be addressed. Humza Yousaf must resign as well, because Humza Yousaf also, as we've proven here, guilty after the fact. He knew, therefore guilty of lying and stealing. A thief and a liar, both Mr. Michael Matheson and Mr. Humza Yousaf. Both of them need to resign. Stopping there, coming up. As the days drag on, each and every day more revelations come out, more thought is put towards this man being incompatible with his role. He must resign. The pressure mounts and grows, not just on him, of course, but on Humza Yousaf himself, because he too now is admittedly someone who is a liar and a thief. He's admitted he made a false accusation, or a false statement, after he knew the facts. That makes him guilty of the same crime. He's guilty after the fact. And so you have the whole of the SNP being what apparently is run by liars and thieves. Is this what we need? Is this what we deserve? Is this what Scotland wants? A cabal of thievery? Probably not. It's time for them all to go. A new election must be called. A new Holyrood election, as well as a general election. Let's clear out the Aegean stables. Remove from it an absolute ton of shit and replace it with people that are at least, on the face of it, honest. Thank you very much for listening. This is the end of this video. Wait out for the next one. There's another one coming. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.